morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands-on SAP Dev with me, DJ Q Macro. Welcome one and all. Greetings, Earthlings and all that. So I can see already in the chat, thank you for saying good morning and welcome and everything. Antonio, good morning to you. And Javier, good morning. Visas in Thailand, good morning to you, especially in Thailand. And Helmut, good morning to you in Braunschweig, Brunswick, Germany. Amar, hello there, welcome. Welcome all aboard. So yeah, we've got another hopefully interesting, fun-packed, maybe not as chaotic as last week, although I quite enjoyed it. I don't know whether you enjoyed it last week. The slight sort of brain exploding, brain exploding things that we learned when we dug into the wonderful world of CAP. So good morning to Torsten and buongiorno to Chiara in buongiorno a tutti. Good morning to all. Good day to all. Good day to you as well, Sidish and Ajay. Good afternoon to you over in India. I've already finished my coffee. Anyway, I'll tell you about that in a minute. So Stefano, buongiorno. Matthias, good morning to you in Mesqueda in Germany. Hugo, dzień dobry to you, Hugo. Thank you for that. I love all these different languages. It's fantastic. Prazija, good morning to you in Munich. Ashok, good morning to you in Belgium. So welcome. Yes, actually it's quite warm. I lit the fire this morning. I went out for a quick run this morning. But it's got, and it's sort of that time of the year now where it's not quite on. I'm on the narrowboat. It's not quite warm enough generally to not have any heating on. So I lit the fire this morning when I got back from the run, and I've now put some. But it's quite warm. So I might even have to open the duck hatch behind me to cool down, to keep it cool. Anyway, so good morning to you, Tung, also in Munich, and Ahmet in Turkey. Good morning. Fantastic. So thank you all so much for joining. So we're going to continue where we left off last week. And by the way, next week I am in Germany in Frankenthal. I think that's just slightly west of Frankfurt. And I'm there most of the week at a DSAG, the deutschsprachige SAP Anwendergruppe, doing 2 code jams. So I'm going to be flying back then on Friday morning. So no live stream next week. I think we'll resume then the week after next. So just let you know. So Carsten, good morning to you in Stuttgart. Oh my goodness me. Those are, I don't know whether you've typed those in sort of manually, but I can see open curly brackets, lowercase I, close curly brackets at the start of that, and then open curly brackets, escape YY100P. So maybe those are control codes that I might see if I flip to, let me flip to, no, they still look like that in the chat as well, so I have no idea what's going on. Anyway, welcome everybody. Let me flip to the main scene. Just a reminder, did I put this in the chat? I can't even remember. It's like 2 minutes ago. Code Connect Week. No, that's right. Here we go. So let me add that URL in the chat as well. So basically, I've just pushed a couple of updates to bring this repo, basically our working repo, as we sort of explore the basics of CAP. So it's up to date as of yesterday. So at the end of episode 7, I had some bits and pieces in there. In services, for example, what was that? End of episode 7, what was the services difference? Oh, that's right. Yeah, we added that service banana because I think somebody asked a great question right at the end. And I was trying to explain about services and projections. Oh, that's right. It was to do with views, wasn't it? So anyway, if you want the most up-to-date version of what we all have here in my VS Code, it's there in the CAP B2B repo, which you can clone. Now, just a couple of things to point out. I've put the links in the chat already. And of course, the links will be in the show notes. Show notes, that's quite a cool phrase, isn't it? Show notes, in the show notes, with the recording. I'll show you where those are, actually. If I forget to show you where those are, somebody please on the chat remind me to point out where the show notes are. Ajay, that's your task, Ajay. So it's March and we have a new developer challenge that is running at the moment. It's being run by our lovely friend and colleague Antonio. It's cloud events, all about cloud events, and we're already in week 2. So check out this. I've put the link in the chat already. So we're in week two of the, what's wrong with my teeth? I can't even speak. Maybe I've had to, see, so normally I have a nice sort of relaxing coffee when I'm an early riser, so I get up about 5. Have a nice relaxing coffee. First of all, like a milk-based coffee, and then I have I brew an AeroPress type coffee to have here. But I've only had one, but I feel as though I've had about 10 coffees. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. So that's why my words are coming out wrong. So there's the developer challenge. This week's SAP Developer News, there's Shilpa, fantastic, hello Shilpa. So check out that, the link is in the chat as well. And maybe most timely, there's an item on this in the news as well this week, but Code Connect, the #1 developer event this summer for SAP developers, Code Connect. It's the first week in June, but the most important part is that registration opens for these 3 consecutive one-day conferences, Recap, UI5Con and ABAPConf 2024 Europe. Registration for those 3 conferences opens next week. March 21st is a Thursday next week at 4 p.m. CET, so check it out. So there we go, and that's that. Now, a bit of a moment we're going to start off with, because we had a discussion last week, didn't we, on reuse types, common reuse types. CAP, where are we? No, CAP docs. Let me just search in there. Reuse types. Reuse type. There we go. Reuse types. So we looked at type country. Okay, reuse types, and somebody very correctly said, "Why don't we have any data? Wouldn't it be nice if we had some data?" And I had a complete brain fail, one of many, where I was saying, "Oh yeah, maybe we could have a sort of CDS plugin or some nonsense like that," and blah 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 blah. There is already. I realised, I thought about it after the live stream. It's always the case. After the live stream finishes, your brain sort of calms down, and then you think, "Oh, of course, that's the answer." So, to the question, is there any possibility of having some data for these common reuse types? Common reuse types being country, currency, language, and time zone? The answer is yes. And the answer lies in a package called, oh, there we go, CDS Common Content. Amazing. Who knew? Well, I certainly didn't. And not on the old, what's happened to that? Why is the README not working? There should be more in that README, basically. I don't know what's going on here. Let me refresh that. God. Oh, there we go. Fine. Browser problem. So there is common content. Gives you all the data for countries, currencies, language, and time zones. So what I did as a punishment to myself, and maybe a punishment to you because it turned out to be quite a long blog post, so sorry, is I blogged about it. I blogged about it. I normally blog, first of all, on my own blog, as in I publish a post on my own blog here, ISO content for comment, and I prefer to read it here because I have better, I can do better sort of monospace formatting in the paragraphs here. So there it is. So there, this blog post takes you through, and we're going to go through it today as well, takes you through how to get common reuse type data, ISO data, into your app, okay, into your service. So check this out. And if you're over, I've also put the link to this one. Let me put the link there as well again. If you're over on this one, give it a kudos. Give it a kudos. Award points if helpful. Blah blah blah. All that sort of stuff. Give it a quick kudos. Anyway, so I just noticed here something from Amar. One question: in CAP binded XSUA service, can we access all BTP roles assigned, or only specific to CAP application created roles? That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. Let me find out, unless anybody else on the chat knows the answer to that. That's a really good question. So basically, Amar is asking whether when we've got a CAP service bound to an instance of the XSUAA service, can we access all the BTP roles or only the ones specific to the CAP application? I think you should have access to all the roles, but I don't know. That's a really good question, Amar. If nobody else can answer on the chat, leave that with me and Ajay, and I don't know who else from our team is on the chat right now on the live stream, but me and Ajay will have a talk about that next week, or maybe the week after, because I'm not around next week. Great question, Amar. Thank you for asking that, and keep all the questions coming. Like I always say, I might not be able to answer the questions straight away, but there we go. Right, so we're going to look at the ISO content, but first of all, as in we're going to look at the ISO content later in this episode, but first of all, we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that. First of all, let me sort of wind back to where we left off last week, and it was here. So we've got a services file, so we're still deliberately sort of doing the non-conventional thing and not using, not dividing our stuff into the DB, serve, and app, but apps to do with front end, between the DB and serve, between the persistence layer directory DB and the service layer directory serve. We're not doing that right now, but I want to talk about that a little bit later as well. So at the moment, we've got this content. Our entire service is defined, including the entities that service exposes, in this one file. Okay. We also have this banana service, which I used just as an illustration right at the end of last episode, to demonstrate what a second service looked like in terms of the metadata, but also in terms of the view that would be generated, right, at the persistence layer, the DDL. But then right at the end, I started it up. Here we go. Let me just clear. Let me run CDS watch. And what happened? If you remember, when I started it up, I have a water here. That coffee's made me really thirsty. I started it up and said, oh yeah, there we go. Oh, there's the two services. We've got the bookshop service and the banana service. We can see here, serving bookshop, serving banana, over here. Books as normal, yeah, fine, thank you very much. Authors as normal, yeah, fine, thank you very much. And we've got that country of birth _ code. We'll look a little bit more as to what that property is shortly. And also there's a reference to that and an explanation of that in that blog post I've just posted to you as well. Fine, but then I clicked on this, didn't I? I selected this and it said bang, error 500. So basically a server-side error, not anything that I've done in the request, but something that, you're welcome, Amma, you're welcome. Thank you, keep these questions coming. If I can't answer them, I'll hopefully go and find out and get back to you. And also we can all answer them together if we can, right, on the chat. So I'm trying to access right now the entity set that sort of corresponds with this entity definition, something, which is just a projection on books, right? So can anybody tell me why that was the case? I think I did mention it last week. But why do you think this doesn't work? Let's just read the error message while I give you a chance to, for this 20-second delay, catch up in the chat type thing so you can put something in the chat. But let's just read the error message. No such table. There's a bit of a clue, right? Banana _ something in, and then select JSON insert, blah, 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 right? So it's doing something, this select JSON insert from blah, 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 from select something.title, from banana _ something. Now we know, or we can guess at least, that banana _ something clearly is related to the something here inside of banana. And remember as well, we have this sort of namespace entity name sort of conjoined sort of two strings with an underscore, or sometimes with a dot, for example, in our data directory, bookshop authors, bookshop.books, you can see the dash or the dot, it doesn't really matter. So we can see that it's looking for an artifact in the persistence layer called banana _ something. And if we were to, I can see somebody's put something in. I'll look at what's in the chat in a minute, because I think that might be an answer to my question. So we can see if we say SQLite 3, and then look at the bookshop books there, we can see tables, right? If we have a look at that, we can see that that's where this underscore is used to sort of join the context name, the namespace, right, and the entity name. Now, for example, why is this bookshop _ authors? Because the author's entity, that's what that thing is there, is inside of this sort of well, it's not a namespace explicitly, it's not a context explicitly, but it's still, the service within which it is defined still sort of, in this particular case, acts as like a namespace or a context. So we get bookshop_authors there, right? So P. Beedgen, hello and welcome, says CDS persistence skip. Now that's a great guess. It's not quite what I was looking for, but it's a great guess because we've seen this annotation, haven't we, in the previous episode, CDS persistence skip. We're going to be looking at CDS persistence skip later on. Let me know in the chat if you've read through or attended. I can see Matthias there. You've attended this, Matthias. One of our code jams on service integration with CAP, and we look at CDS persistence skip. When you import a definition of an API, let's say an S4 HANA Cloud API, like API Business Partner, for example, and you import that with CDS import, it will build the season, the sort of internal representation, like a CDS sort of internal representation for the API, so that you can start using and referring to elements in that, artifacts in that imported API definition from the S4 HANA system in your CDS, right? But the things that you refer to, the imported entities, are all defined in the season with CDS persistence skip, because you, in your service, don't want to be storing that data somewhere else in S4 HANA, right? So that's a common use of the CDS persistence skip annotation. It's a good guess, but it's not quite the answer I was thinking of. Does anybody else know? Also, we added this country of birth, didn't we? And we also added these two stupid records for the country's entity set, right? Remember last week we said CDS add data, and it generated for us these CSV files in DB data, because we know why it's DB data, with the appropriate sort of header field, so we don't have to work out what they are. And then I typed in record, and this record, right? But if we go back here, when we look at countries, oh, I'm not running there we go. I'm not running CDS Watch. When I try and look at countries, when this starts up, let me move that up a bit. Let's just refresh that, and countries, it's still empty. Where is it? Where's that data? Hey Manu, welcome and glad you have joined our session. It's not just my session, it's our session, right? This hands-on SAP Dev Back to Basics series belongs to us, and this is why the chat is so important. This is why you're so important, right? So Kiara says CDS deploy maybe. Very nicely put. Very subtly put as well. I like the maybe. Yes. And that's exactly. Good morning, Kevin. Kevin in the house. So Kiara is spot on. What we haven't done is a CDS deploy. Now, let's have a look. Let me move that right up to the top a minute. To top, clear. CDS deploy. What's wrong? Even my fingers are affected by the coffee. CDS deploy, -- help. Let's just see what it says, right? Deploys the given model to, and I will also encourage you, when you're about to run a command or think you need to run a command, just take a couple of minutes to just do a -- help and have a look what that command is doing, so you maybe better understand it. Maybe you understand it already, but maybe you'll spot something in the options that you've never seen before. So, oh, I remember that for next time. Chiara, yes, I know, yeah, I know you attended the Code Jam in Milan. I think that was where I was, wasn't it? Yes. So you'll know CDS persistence skip as well from that same Code Jam. Excellent. Yes, so deploys the given model to a database. So let's run well, actually, before we run CDS deploy, let's go into SQLite again. And if we do a tables, not tables, sorry, dot tables, we can see bookshop authors, books, countries, bookshops, countries, bookshops, countries, bookshops, countries, bookshops. But we don't see anything relating to our banana service. So we don't see this banana _ something that is in the error. And that's because, as Chiara exactly... Was it in Brescia? Of course it was. Ah, yes. Sorry, yes. It was in Brescia, but I had to fly to Milan and I stayed in a hotel in Milan. That's why I was thinking it was Milan. But I got a train from Milan to Brescia. Has anybody put in the chat if you've been to Milan and been to the train station? Is the most magnificent building I've ever seen. It's monumental. It's absolutely amazing. Yes, of course. So I stayed in Milan and I got the train to Brescia in the morning and back again. Yes. Sorry, Chiara. Of course it was Brescia. Anyway, so we don't see this banana underscore something, and that's because we haven't done CDS deploy. But why do we need CDS deploy? We haven't needed to do a CDS deploy over the past previous 6 or 7 episodes, have we? When we've added things to our CDS or added some data. Why do we need to do a CDS deploy now? Have a think about that and tell me in the chat. Oh, that's good. That water's good. I don't know. Why am I so thirsty? I don't know. I'll give you a clue. Let's have a look in package.json. Remember, a couple of episodes ago, we added explicitly in the package.json some configuration for our persistence layer. Now, remember... By the way, I can feel myself going down another digression. You know, we've been working towards doing the associating books and authors for so long now. And I feel really bad that we've still not got there. We're almost there. We can almost touch it. We can almost smell that association between books and authors coming down the line. Put in the chat whether you're okay with us, you know, getting there eventually. We might get there today. Right? We've already seen an association. Where did we see that association? We saw that association in the SAP CDS Common, didn't we? If we have a look in here, we saw when we look. Oh yeah, here we go. If we look at the services, look at what country is. Right? We saw country was an association. We saw it. We're going to be doing something similar to this between books and authors. But please put in the chat just to make me feel less guilty, maybe. So it's a selfish request. Tell me, or if you want to go straight to associated books and authors now, let's do that now. But let me know, because I think this discussion, this digression, is fascinating. Let's just kill that, right? And let's just really quickly create CDS init temp, right? Let's create a new throwaway project. Let's go into temp, and now if you see CDS env. Requires in fact, first of all, let's open package.json, right? This is like code package.json, right? This is the raw, completely fresh, nothing done to at all, package.json in a brand new cap Node.js project, right? No configuration, no explicit cap configuration in there. But now if we say CDS env and have a look at the requires, we've done this before, but I'll do it again, requires.db, the default implicit configuration is to use SQLite, but an in-memory SQLite database. Ah, yes, so Carsten says you make it to a persistent database from an in-memory. Exactly, Carsten, thank you. That is precisely what we did and what I was hoping somebody would say. So Carsten, thank you. Gregorian, hello to you in Armenia. Amazing. I worked for a long time at a pharmaceutical company in Manchester, or South Manchester, not really Manchester at all, in Alder Edge, Macclesfield. You know, I'm sure you know who it is. Anyway, they had some offices just near Manchester Airport, near Gatley, and there was an Armenian cafe that I used to go to every day. It was fantastic. Lots of Armenian food. Anyway, random. So Gregorian, welcome. So we can see that the default is an in-memory SQLite. So let's go back out there and remove that before I confuse myself with it. So now if we say the same thing, but in this directory, in our project directory, CDS env requires DB, what do we get? We get something similar, but not quite the same. Look, a SQLite database, but a persistent, as Carson says, a persistent database in a file. So that's the difference, and that's why, and that's come from, let's get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. That's come from here, right? We added that, okay? Now, if we were to change this back to in memory, let's do that now. Memory, like that. Let's see what happens, shall we? Let's see what happens. CDS watch. Don't know what's going to happen. Let's check. Let's see. Great. Now, look. Connect to DB SQLite memory. Ooh, why is that restarted? Don't know. Connect to DB SQLite URL in memory, right? And suddenly we get this init from, we get more lines. We get init from the countries, from the books, from the, and in there as well. Look, DB data, SAP common countries. Okay, so now, and also the whole model has been deployed. So there's an implicit deployment to an in-memory SQLite database, the default. So if we run this now, refresh, not only do we not get an error anymore, we also get data because this is just a projection, right? Where is it? Services, there. This banana service with the something entity is basically a projection onto that one. Okay, so we get the same data, right? Books, there. We get the same data, but we don't get the ID. This thing here, it says just the title element, not anything else. Okay, if I, again, DJ, stop digressing, but I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to say books and then put a, let's get rid of it. There, right? Like that. Now, if I do that and take away the curly brackets title, right? If I go back here, I go back to something, we get the ID as well because we're not sort of constraining the properties in our projection. Anyway, that's for later on, right? So, oh, Gregorian, you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. So now, also, because we're in memory and because the model has been built and deployed to the in-memory every time we restart and everything, we've also got the countries. Brexit land, home of the idiots, right? So, etc., right? So, but that's a bit of a pain in the backside if we have to sort of keep remembering what we've got here and switching and modifying stuff here, right? So, you know what? I don't think we're even going to get to, I don't think we're going to get to the building the association, but we're going to get to start building the association between books and authors. Let me change that back to Bookshop SQLite. And instead, there's another way. There's a better way. This is a great opportunity for us to think about another amazing feature of the CAP Node.js runtime. And that, let me save that again. So it's going to restart, okay? And we're back to square one, as it were. If I refresh that, well, you don't need to refresh it. Same issue. So going back to Chiara's answer, I'm going to do that and CDS deploy. So now we've deployed, and of course, by default, it's going to read the end from here, right? So it's deployed to the right place. So now if we say SQLite Bookshop SQLite, if we see tables, we now also should, there we go, banana something. Select star from, oops, banana underscore something. There it is. Right. Good morning, Nitesh, and welcome. So let's get out of that. Now, what I'm thinking of, oh, it's there. What I'm thinking of in CAP is configuration profiles. So put in the chat if you've used configuration profiles before, right? Put in the chat if you are curious about them. They're super powerful and also super easy. You might have seen an invocation of the CAP server, CDS serve. -- production. Okay. In fact, let's do that now. It doesn't matter if it goes wrong, because it will go wrong. I'll tell you why in a minute. CDS watch or serve, doesn't really matter because we're doing serve anyway. -- production. Let me put that there because we're going to see a lot of stuff, right? In fact, let me just clear that first of all. There. Bang! Why has it gone bang? Because the production mode, as it were, also means that the CAP server will require all sorts of production level services and configuration, including some non-mock security service mechanisms, right? Excess security. So while we can't use -- production, -- production, by the way, CDS watch -- production is just syntactic sugar shorthand for -- profile production. Same thing, right? Same thing, bang. Okay. However, we can use the power of these profiles to define, look at that there. We're going to do exactly that sort of thing. To define, in fact, let's put that across here. Let's open up a new tab so we can sort of see it with our own eyes and how we copy. Oh, so Nitesh says, great question, Nitesh. How can we use the HANA database for local HTTP file testing? Now, I'm not sure what you mean specifically with local HTTP file testing. What I'm going to interpret that question as is, how can we still run CAP server locally and also make local host HTTP requests, which I think you might be referring to, but have the data in a HANA file? And this is hybrid mode. And in fact, hybrid mode, I'll tell you two things about hybrid mode. You can look it up. So the keyword is hybrid. Hybrid is basically a configuration, a CDS env configuration set that combines running a CAP server locally, but binding that CAP server with remote services. Now, if you have a look at, in fact, I'm going to ask Ajay or Kevin, are you still there? Ajay or Kevin, put in the chat for me the URL to our CAP HANA code jam. In fact, I can find it here. CAP HANA, there we go, it's there. Right, in this code jam, it's an amazing code jam. Where are we? Well, there we go. In there, you will find an example of exactly what you want to do, if I understand your question correctly. Okay, so it's hybrid mode. And hybrid mode, when you set this up with some CAP magic with the CDS command, all of a sudden you have a piece of configuration that you refer to via a special profile name called hybrid. So we're dealing with profiles there as well. Profile hybrid, right? Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Sorry, I was a bit too fast there. I didn't give you a chance. There you go. Excellent. Good work, Kevin. Now, so what we'll do is let's get rid of that and let's go into service package and do exactly this. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything on the same line here so we can repeat it. So let's say we've got a file based like this one here. Let's just let's add that on a separate line there, and then put that whole thing in like that. If I say, for example, I don't know, let's call this profile pre-prod. In the olden days of R3, we used to call our sort of, the systems after development and testing pre-prod. In fact, let's call it testing, right? So now, let me just format that as well, because then it's a bit nicer to see, right? In fact, no, let's have that there like that. There, okay? There. So now we've got our explicit configuration that says use SQLite but use a file inside a profile called testing. In fact, let's stop here, let's save that and ask ourselves, What do you think is going to happen now? Put in the chat what you think is going to happen. I think, yeah, I'm feeling okay. Nobody said, DJ, you idiot, we want to do associations between books and authors right now. So I'm going to carry on in this trajectory because it's super, super interesting to learn about the basics of the power of configuration profiles. Not only because you can use them yourself, but when you come across them. When I first started reading this sort of thing, it just looks weird with a value of a property, the key of a property, in square brackets. Like, what is all that about? But it's just text, right? And CAP Node.js uses that to give us this amazing facility. So I'm going to take a drink of water and somebody put in the chat what do you think is going to happen. Are we going to have an in-memory, or are we going to have a Bookshop SQLite, or are we going to have an error? What's going to happen when I say CDS watch? And while we're waiting, let's just have a stare at this as well. So you can see here we've got DB is now not just Chi and SQLite, blah, 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 but it's also, it's multiple versions of the same configuration, just divided up by what will become these configuration profiles. Well, nobody's put anything in the chat yet. I don't want to bore you to death. So let's just run it. In fact, let me just move that up a bit, move that up a bit there, move that up a bit there, give people a chance to say something in the chat. Come on. Yes, no, come on. I'm going to say something in the chat, please. Let me know what you think is going to happen. I'll give you a clue, actually. I'll give you a clue. Oh, in fact, there's the clue. If the profile is not set to production, the development profile is automatically enabled. So there's some defaulting of stuff going on. There's a bit of a clue. CDS watch. Let's run it. Da, da, da. It completely ignores this configuration because this configuration belongs to and only to the now newly defined testing configuration profile. Carsten says in memory without -- profile testing. Exactly. So maybe, sorry, I apologize. Maybe the delay between me saying something and it coming out on the YouTubes is more than 20 seconds. So I apologize. Carsten has it spot on. In memory. Look, in memory. So let's take Carsten's suggestion and let's just do that. Yes, CDS without profile, it runs in memory. So let's just do that there. What's going on? What's going on with my keyboard? There we go. CDS watch -- profile. Well, in fact, let's put something rubbish. Let's use a profile called rubbish that doesn't exist. I'd be curious to see what goes on here. Rubbish. It doesn't find that profile. So it does the default that it finds. Now, if we say here testing, it goes to the SQLite based configuration profile. Now, let's be more explicit then and say here development, because that's the default, okay? The default is development, and we'll have here URL memory. Carsten, now an error without deployment. Well, it's interesting. Yes, I thought I'd have an error as well. I'll ask. Oh, I forgot the comma there. I'm going to ask internally. I've made a mental note to ask internally why, when we did rubbish, it said there's no profile called rubbish. There's probably a good reason for it. That my brain is too small to understand. But there we go. So now I've saved that. We're still running with profile testing. So let me get rid of the profile again. It's still going to do the in-memory one, but that's because it's by default, it's either the implicit or the one that's development. So there we go. So that there, let's just do that and see the -- profile development, same thing, or no data, same thing. Okay. So this is a really good way, and we'll keep this now. This is a really good way of being able to switch between the SQLite file and the SQLite in memory. Okay. Does that make sense? Right, I think we might have chance to very briefly, because I've described it in the blog post, to very briefly get the ISO data, and then right at the very end, I think we'll start to do an association. How about that? Okay, so if we have a look at ISO data for QMAT. Let's go back to my blog post. There's a link there. ISO content for common types. Da, 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 da. Here we go. Welcome to, where is it? Here we go. Package. CDS common content. I don't know why it doesn't come up. Why is that? Why does that not come up? What is wrong with the content there being served? That happened a minute ago. There should be text there. Okay, anyway, all we need to do is add that package, right? So let's do that. So let's watch what happens inside of packages.json. In fact, shall we clean this up first? Yes, let's clean this up first. Let's clean it up. So let's get rid of the banana service, and also let's get rid of this stuff as well, the DB data, right? This is the two rubbish records that I created before. Let's get rid of that whole thing with nothing in authors, nothing in books. We've got those two rubbish records there, nothing in there. So let's get rid of that whole directory. Delete permanently. Bit of a clean up there. So all we've now got is bookshop authors, the two authors and the books. Okay, and we've got in our services, we've got the CUID and country. There we go. So let's save that and CDS watch and run it with development, right? In development mode by sort of default. Okay. Now, we can also now say npm add, and add is just a synonym for install, but add semantically for me sounds a bit better. SAP CDS common content. Now, if we have a look inside node modules, it should end up inside of here, right? So let's do that. 21 package. I'm looking for funding. I was always confused. Added one package, and I'm not sure that that updates correctly, because if we look in node modules at SAP, we can now see CDS common content. In fact, let's just go here because I like this much better. If we go to cap B2B, there we go, and then have a look at that. Now inside of the node modules, where is it there? We've got SAP CDS common content. We've got some stuff, and this, look at all that, all those CSV files. Look at all those CSV files. Okay, so we've got all those CSV files. Now, all we have to do now is add this using directive into our CDS, into our model definition. So let's do that now. Let's go to here and open, paste, close, and let's CDS watch. Okay, check this out. That's what we've got so far. Bookshop books and bookshop authors. Let's go to the local host there. Local host there, 4004. Nothing in, oh yeah, the three items in books. Let me put my face at the bottom. 3 items in books, authors, 2 authors, country code. Let's leave that null for now. And nothing in countries. Right. Now let's save this, and let's also see what happens when we save it. And of course we're running CS watch, so we should restart. Let's see. Bang, bang, bang. Amazing. What is going on here? Look at that. What? We get some more stuff loaded. So the model is now loaded not just from services CDS, and also of course SAP CDS common, which is from this thing here, but also from node modules at SAP CDS common context. Look, there it is. Now, books, same. Authors, same. But now, drum roll, we've got ISO data. Now, it's as simple as that. How does that work? Why does that work? That's what the blog post explains, and that's why I seem to have taken so long to explain it, right? It goes into excruciating detail as to what is going on, okay? And it's all to do with this magically named index.cds file in this package we've just imported. Okay, so we go down the rabbit hole. Can anybody tell me what that curiouser and curiouser phrase is a reference to? What literary work? Anyway, go down a rabbit hole. Brilliant. We've 8:46. We've got time. I think we've got time to get to finally. Let's get rid of this now. Let's just undo that because let's just, we don't really want that anymore. and also npm uninstall SAP CDS Common content. Okay, now CDS watch, we're back to no data. Okay, good. Now, please paste the URL. Oh, yes, okay, I will. Nitesh, please paste the URL in the chat. Thank you for Nitesh. That is brilliant. If I forget something anytime, please just let me know. Brilliant. There we go. So there's the URL to the description of what CDS Common Content is, how to use it, which is really simple, and how it works and why it does what it does. And reading through that will also give you a bit of an insight into lots of different bits and pieces of the Node.js CAP mechanism. It's wonderful. As in the Node.js CAP mechanism, not my blog post is wonderful. CAP is wonderful. Okay, so that's that. Right. The last 10 minutes or so. What we'll do is we'll clean up a little bit more, actually. We don't want this country of birth anymore. Just keep it as simple as possible. Let's get rid of that and save that. So now all we have in our metadata is something super simple. Up there, you can see we've got our entity container that contains just two entity sets, books and authors. And in fact, we can also see that the books and authors entity sets are more or less the same. They've got an ID and a title, and here's an ID and a name, but they're basically a string, right? Exactly that, what we've got there. So how do we go about, put in the chat what we need to do to relate books to authors? Remember when we had, just a minute ago, we had, where was it? We had this extra field, the value for which was null on each of the entities in the entity set. When we had that country, in fact, let me put that back in again. There, let's just run that again. The author's entity definition has this country of birth and with type country, and country that is defined as an association to SAP Common Countries. So when we looked at this, when we looked at this, we had this magically generated for us because this definition here is expressed using the association directive or keyword. I wonder what the word is. Keyword, I think. Association. I don't know. And this creates for us a so-called managed association. Okay. Is everybody familiar with managed associations? Managed associations, here we go, managed to one association. There we go. Let's put that in the chat. There. Now. Get rid of that and get rid of that. Notice how this is constructed as well. Somebody put in the chat what this property name consists of. What is the thing on the left of the underscore and what is the thing on the right of the underscore? Where does it come from? While you're thinking of that, I'm actually going to get rid of it. Save that again. So now all we have is the ID and name. That country of birth underscore code is gone. But now let's start to think about what we want to do. We want to be able to go from a book to its author. And for the sake of argument right now, let's just say each book only has one author. So we're talking specifically about a managed to one association. That's how to sort of think about that, how to pronounce it. A managed to one association, as opposed to a too many, right? We'll do a too many shortly, maybe next time. So all we need to do is to think about saying, well, author, and remember this is an element in the book's entity, and element name should be lowercase. And this is of course singular because it's a to-one association. So, not necessarily convention, but it makes sense to call it lowercase singular author, right? Some people, shall I get into this now? Some people say to call them to author because they know that it's going to be a navigation property in the metadata. But let's not even go there right now. Author, associate. Now, this is where, if you're using VS Code, the amazing extension for CAP Node.js development comes into play. So we get this helper here, tab, association to, and then let's start typing authors. There we go, look at that, authors, tab, semicolon. Okay, I've not saved it yet. Kevin said, but what if a book has multiple authors? I was hoping somebody would ask that. Then you need a too many, a many-to-many association. Now, out of the box, at the moment, CAP can do a to-one association and a too-many. But if you want a many-to-many, as in a one-to-one and a one-to-many, but if you want a many-to-many, which is, I suppose, more realistic in the literary world, you know, a book might have two authors and an author might have written more than one book, then you need a sort of a helper table, which is not what we're going to look at today because that's too complex. In fact, there is somewhere, we did already on the Hands-on SAP Dev Show, didn't we? A whole series on managed associations where I covered this many-to-many association. Where is it? Can anybody see it? Managed associations. There we go. Check it out. So if you want to dig deeper, right, in this playlist here of 4 live streams, we cover exactly the answer to Kevin's question. But it's, I would say, it's not appropriate for the back to basics because it's not basic. Anyway, let's save that. And now let's refresh. Well, all right, let's refresh the authors. There should be no change. Correct, there's no change. If we now refresh the books, we now see we've got another property. So we can see this pattern, can't we? When we have an association, when we have an element that is defined as an association, like this, a 2-1 association, managed association, we automatically get at the persistence layer, and then that's of course exposed as a property in the actual API, in the service, in OData in this case, we get this foreign key field thing here. So now all we have to do is go to books. In fact, let's go to bring authors in there as well, because we'll need to refer to that, won't we? Right? This authors thing here, let's copy that. Let's go up to here. That's Douglas Adams. Let's paste that, and then let's go down here again, and let's just say here, I've got Vim mode on, so I can, where is it? I can do copy to comma, oh, not change the comma, yank to comma, and I can go up here and then paste that. So now we've built this relationship. Oh, here we go. Nitesh says, in your upcoming sessions, can you show an example to consume an external service and merge it with the capped service data? Yes. It might be in a while because that's also something I want to build up to. And you know me and digressions. If you want to jump ahead, we also have cap service what is wrong with my typing? Integration, there we go. We have another code jam, the content of which is also available online, public, openly, because of course we are open in the Developer Advocates team. You can get all the information from there about doing exactly what you just asked for, consuming the external service and merging it with the CAP service data. So if you want a code jam on that, let us know. Kevin can maybe send a link in the chat to Tom's post about, so you want to host a code jam in our application, no, in our code jam group, to find out how to request a code jam. Anyway, and also Stefano says, where does that error during type generation come from? That's a good question. This thing, it's down here sometimes, isn't it? I don't know. I don't really use VS Code normally. I only use VS Code for the live stream. And I never see that normally. So I think it's to do with the CDS extension for VS Code. But I've already got another thing I want to ask the folks about internally, so I'll also ask them about that. Okay, so thank you for asking that, Stefano. Good eagle eyes there. So now we've got this new author_ID. So I've added that there, but of course I also need to add that as the CSV header field, right? If I said, for example, if I made a mistake and got rid of the I, save that, what's going to happen? We're going to get an error again because it's actually looking at the CSV header field and trying to insert this third value according to the headers here, third column, into a property at the DDL layer, the persistence layer, called author_I. It doesn't exist. ID, save that, should restart, redeploy, we're in memory, we're good. How to host CodeJam. Perfect, thank you, Kevin. So now, if I refresh that, we get the author_ID. But the most magical thing, and we've got 2 minutes left, the most magical thing is that now, because of, did I not save that? I didn't even make any changes there. Let's get rid of that. Let's close that. Yes, don't save. Because I've defined this association now sort of comes to the surface in the EDMX, in the metadata, in the OData service that we're serving now as, where is it? A navigation property. Authors, there, look, there. There's our entity type books. There, navigation property name equals author. So now you all know what I'm going to do now. Bookshop. Let's look at the books. Expand equals author. So finally, with such a simple single expression and managed 2-1 association, we can jump from books to their authors. And of course, everything else, if we could just say, filter, anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now. So there we go. We finally started on our journey to relate books and authors. It's still, now I will say one thing, to keep things simple and to sort of emphasize things, we've still got everything defined. Our entities, we'd normally think about at the persistence layer, defined inside the service definition. So it's quite hard, it's possible, but it's quite hard to refer to those entities in other services, especially if they're in other files. And you sort of, it's like tying your shoelaces wrong and then tripping up, right? So next time as well, we'll start to clean this up and sort of separate out the persistence layer stuff, the entities and the relationships, from the service layer stuff, and we'll put them in the separate DB and serve directories, and we'll feel a lot better for this, like having a shower or tying your shoelaces properly. Okay, that's the end of the episode. I've finished actually on time. Thank you so much for joining. And oh, by the way, I see Ebonk here. This is not free. CodeJams are free. CodeJams are free to anyone to attend. There are certain CodeJams that are run in the context of organizations like ASUG. So you have to be an ASUG member or a DSAG member, for example. But the CodeJams themselves are free. Always free. Thank you so much for joining. I won't see you next week, but hopefully I'll see you the week after. Let me know in the chat whether you enjoyed this and whether you thought it was useful, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.